Hello students, in this video I am going to talk to you about the Galaxy and Stars lab in Module 2. So notice that I'm working through the course using the table of contents on the left. And if you just use the horizontal navigation bar, you're going to miss a lot of instruction and information and resources because they're down here. So we're in Module 2, and remember from the welcome video that as you scroll through the course like this, one page feeds to the next page using these buttons in the upper right corner. So we get to the Module 2 Lab 1 Galaxy and Stars instructions. Now, when I click on this, I am not seeing this file. Perhaps the pop-up is being blocked. I can't figure out why, but that doesn't really matter because you need the file. So you're going to download the file here. Let's take one step back. You can also use this down arrow to download the file. Now, if you've already downloaded the file, I've changed it because I found that it wasn't very clear what they wanted you to do. So I wanted to make it clearer. So now you'll find this modified document. Stars exploration does not require a lab kit, so do not delay. Go right ahead and start working on it. We are going to use our Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, an interactive diagram, to plot 5 stars and figure out what kind of stars they are. Okay, so I have changed the directions here to follow a little bit more smoothly. So let's go to that web page. Everything I'm going to describe is written here in this new updated document. And let's go to that web page. So here we are at aspire.cosmic-ray.org. Star life cycle. So you want to read this page, of course. Take a moment to learn more beyond what the textbook is telling us. And we're going to think about these general questions. In what areas of the chart did you get a lot of stars? In what part of the chart are there very few stars? And why is that? Now, if in this part below those questions you don't see these fun characters in this graph, you need to enable Flash. And that little white box showed up here for me, but now, of course, I've already enabled it and I can't get it to undo. So following the directions, you're going to click Find a Star. Please take a screenshot of this star you find. You're going to find 5 stars, okay? So take a screenshot, put that in your lab notes, analyze the star, and then notice that it puts the star on the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, okay? And I've already done this 3 times so far, and I'm asking you to do it 5 times. And so take a screenshot of this graph, and then move on to the next one, screenshot, graph, screenshot, graph. Okay, and now we're going to compare what we found in our data collection effort to the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, which is a model. It is also a graph. So let's talk for a moment about how you could use this in your classroom as an educational tool. So just the instructional message that this is a graph. That's where you should start, whether your students are elementary, middle, high school, or college students, because the visual representation of science might not be as intuitive for all students. So this is a graph, even though it looks like a box diagram. So essentially, we know that the horizontal axis is called the x-axis and the vertical axis is the y-axis. Typically, the vertical axis would be depicted on the left side, but here it's on the right. All graphs have titles, okay? And these colorful dots are data points. They're stars. And so what we're seeing in these clusters of data points are some patterns. And you're going to talk about those patterns as you collect data, i.e. locate stars using the interactive, okay? Things to notice when you're analyzing a graph are the trends that the axes are trying to communicate. So in this x-axis, notice that this is a little counterintuitive to our normal everyday understanding, but red is actually the coolest kind of stars, and the hottest stars are blue. And you can kind of think about this if you're ever sitting at a campfire. Sometimes a really raging fire kind of gets blue, but soft incandescent light is red, and this has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum, but I won't go there right now. So on the axis, we have hottest to coolest, moving from left to right, or coolest to hottest, moving from right to left. And then on the y-axis, we have least bright to brightest. So that trend is more intuitive to what we would expect. The less bright stars are lower on the y-axis. And so what I am asking you to do is take the information you gained from reading the textbook, talking in discussion, and reading this interactive website to explain your data collection. So you can notice right here, I already have 3 stars clustered in the middle, and they're kind of yellowish of medium temperature, and I have 2 red stars up here, and they are more cooler stars. And so when I look over here, when I go to answer the questions, I'll say 2 of my stars are red giants, and 2 of my stars appear to be in the main sequence. And then I will describe what the red giants in main sequence are. So let's look back at that document. What types of stars did you find, and what is the relative temperature and luminosity of those star types? How old are your stars? Okay, so then you'll move on and doing part 2, exploring dark matter. In the lab submission, you're going to take lots of screenshots, so make sure you do that. Now, also remember that this is the lab instruction. This is not what you submit to your lab drop-off. So here we are back in our course, and right above that Word document we were just looking at, you see the overview and instructions, okay? So here we find the lab report format, okay? This is very simple. This follows very closely to the rubric. Please pay attention to the format. This is effort-based. If you follow the format, you will get full credit. It's okay if you make a mistake and answer a question wrong. It's about the experience of learning, the hands-on experience. Okay? So your lab report does not look like this, which is the lab instructions. It has these headings. Okay? So I recommend that you actually just copy this into a Word document. What's the purpose in question? Hypothesis. Not everything is hypothesis driven. So you could get creative here, or you could, just lean and think about the hypothesis. So in the lab I just described, I would say that the hypothesis is that by using the interactive, we will be able to learn about the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram. There's a hypothesis about learning. And here's one about science. If we track the anatomy of the star, we'll be able to identify what type of star it is. So that's a more scientific hypothesis. So your data tables and graphs in this lab I just described, that's going to be the screenshot of the graph that you get in the interactive. And then you're going to answer those questions. And then the claim, evidence, and reflection is at least a paragraph each to describe the lab report, right? Just describe what you were doing. And more traditionally, you could think of this as the claim being the introduction, the evidence being the results, and the reflection being the conclusion and discussion. And then the references, this is simply the lab manual itself or the website we used, etc. If you end up finding yourself on the NASA website, you could also add that as a reference. Remember that a reference is not just a URL, it contains at least some identifying information like the web page name or the author name, the publication date, etc. Give us a reason to care and follow your URL to gain more information. All right, I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have questions.